Hey, it's Nick, and today I want to tell you about the Hirajoshi scale. This is thought of as a Japanese or Eastern sounding pentatonic scale. I like to think of it that way because it's a 5-note scale, just as our old friend the minor pentatonic, but it has a totally different flavor to it. Now, let's take a look at the differences between the two before we get going here, and then I want to show you 5 positions for the Hirajoshi scale in the key of A minor, and then show you a couple licks and ideas that you can use to get started with it. So we're in the key of A minor here, and a couple of at least one particular player comes to mind when thinking about this scale is Marty Friedman, formerly of Megadeth and Cacophony, and as a solo artist. And he's known for kind of using these Asian sounding scales, Eastern sounding, Japanese sounding scales. And the reason why this scale sounds the way it does to bring out that flavor is just the intervals that make up the scale. And so first, let's just review minor pentatonic. If we're in the key of A minor, we have the root, the flat third, the 4th, the 5th, the flat 7th. So we have these 5 notes: A, flat third C, 4th D, 5th E, flat 7 G. Those 5 notes make up the A minor pentatonic scale. For the Hirajoshi scale, we have also 5 notes, but this time we have A, B, which is the 2nd or the 9th degree. We have the flat third, just as in the minor pentatonic. We have the 5th, so notice we're skipping the 4th. This is part of why we get the sounds, because of the big jumps in intervals. So we have the flat third C to the 5th. So far we have this. Then we have the flat 6th. This is really the culprit here, why this scale sounds the way it does. Okay, and then we go back to the root, so we skip that flat 7. Again, big leap in intervals. So if we put that together in one octave, we get this. You really can start to hear the scale as you go up into the higher octaves. So if I continue that, okay, so hopefully you can hear that this sounds a lot different than your normal pentatonic scale. Now what I want to do here is play an open A string and then play the Hirajoshi scale in the key of A minor on one string, so you can hear the intervals. Let's do that. Okay. Now here you can really see the jumps. You have the A, the B, the C, and then we're going all the way 2 whole steps to E. And then again, when we get to E, we have E and the F. Then we have 2 whole steps before we get back to the root. So you have to really think about this when you start to get this scale together. It's a little tricky to play this when you don't have a system laid out. If you know the notes, then you're safe there, but it helps for muscle memory if you have some patterns that you can go to. So here's what I've done is I've arranged this scale, the A minor Hirajoshi scale, into 5 shapes, just as we have with the minor pentatonic scale. In those 5 patterns, you can think of this as the same idea, the same concept. We have 5 shapes for the Hirajoshi, and they all contain 2 notes per string. This simplifies things greatly and allows you to use some things that you already know, some sequences in the pentatonic scale, from the Western pentatonic scale, with this Eastern pentatonic scale. So I'll show you that in a minute. So I just want to go over each of the patterns here. I'll go through them slow, and hopefully you can write these down or tab them out and have them for your reference. Okay, so I'm going to play through the first pattern. This would be starting on the root, and here we go. So notice there's 2 notes per string, 5/7 on the low E, 3/7 on the A, 3/7 on the D, 4/5 on the G, 5/6 on the B, and 5/7 on the high E. Okay, I encourage you to write that down if you need to. Let's go to the next one. So every new pattern will start on the next scale tone. So now we're on the B note. This will be pattern number 2. So we have 7/8 on the low E, 7/8 on the A, and 7/9 on the D. Now we're going to go 5/9 on the G, 6/10 on the B, and 7/8 on the high E. All that together would be okay. So hopefully you can see there's a little bit of awkwardness in the fingering at first, but once you get used to it and get used to the fact that these wide intervals keep occurring, you'll start to get the hang of it pretty quickly, I think. Now pattern number 3 goes like this. We're starting on C. We go 8/12 and then 8/12 again on the A. Then we go 9/10 on the D, 9/10 again on the G. So that's kind of cool. We have sort of a symmetrical there, and then same 2 frets on the D and G string. But then this is a little bit strange. We have A underneath this on the 10th fret B string, and 12 on the B, and then we have 8/12 on the top string. So we have this all together. Okay, that was pattern 3. Pattern 4, we're going to jump to the E note. So this is 12th fret, low E. We get 12/13, 12/14 on the A. Now we're going to skip to our stretch and play 10/14 on the D and the G string. Now we're going to play 12 and 13 on both the B and the high E. So that pattern is. And then our final pattern starts on the F note. We'll just move up 1 fret, and we have 13 on the low E. Skip over to 17 on the low E. Then we have 14 and 15 on the A and the D. 14/16 on the G. Then we have 13/17 on both the B and the high E. Okay, so as you go through these, you might find certain patterns that work better for you in terms of how they feel. I have my favorites. That last one we did is probably my favorite of all of them because there's nothing that's clunky about the fingering there. I love the fact that you have this little cluster of notes all in a row, and that the stretches are the same on the top two strings. That's kind of nice. Okay, so that's all 5 patterns, and I would definitely recommend memorizing these, trying to connect them, and then also moving around to different keys. And some keys you might have some open strings and things like that, which you might come up with some interesting stuff. So I just want to leave you with a couple of ideas here. Idea number 1 is to take a sequence from the minor pentatonic scale and apply it to the Hirajoshi. Now, why that works is because we have 2 notes per string. So it's just simple math how this can work. They're both minor scales, so they both would apply in certain similar situations. Now, if you think about the Hirajoshi, it has the flat 6. So we're in the Aeolian territory here versus Dorian, which would have the regular 6th degree in the scale. So this would not be something to use over a Dorian type of Dorian type chord progression. But if you're in Aeolian or you're playing over a 1 chord or something like that, this could sound really cool. So here is a typical minor pentatonic sequence in the key of A minor. We'd have something like this. That's your basic sequence right there. 6-note pattern. So we have I'm sure you've all heard that. So as a starting point, what you can do is take the same pattern and apply it to the Hirajoshi scale. Choose a pattern that works well, or that's easier maybe to finger. So let's go up to this one, which I said was my favorite. This would be pattern number 5, ascending. But we're going to start it at the top and apply the same pattern. So we're going to apply this. Now check this out. Here's what it sounds like. Pretty sweet. I think it sounds awesome, and it's simple. It's just taking that scale and arranging it in a sequence. Okay, last idea is let's get some of that Marty Friedman vibe. One thing Marty liked to do, in addition to playing around with these Eastern scales, is to bend into notes that were out of key. So in other words, if E flat in this scale is not in the scale, we're going to bend into this E note from E flat. So for example, if we have E here, we're going to bend into that from a half step below. But we'll combine that with the Hirajoshi scale. So let's take this pattern here. And let's apply some of these half steps. So what you want to do is think a half step below your target note. So for E, it would be E flat, bending into E. For B, we'd be bending in from B flat, and that sort of thing. If you're if you have a note like C, you're already going to be bending into that. So you have to kind of think about, okay, how can I get a little bit of that dissonance that resolves? Because that's really what's going on. There's dissonance and it resolves, and it sounds really cool and exotic. But if we combine that with the Hirajoshi, we get this sort of a thing. Okay, so I'll leave you with this. I'm going to play around with that. I'm going to put on a little looper here, and it's just an A minor chord, and I'm going to play around with some of these. I'll play around with that sequence and some Marty Friedman isms. So before I go, if you haven't already, make sure to download my free sweep picking course. It's got a lot of great ideas in there if you're looking to sharpen your sweep picking skills. Check in the description below. It's called Sweep Picking Bootcamp, and it's my free gift to you. All right, I'll see you next time. Rock on.